U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has given his first major foreign policy speech in Washington, D.C. In it, he called Obama's foreign policy a complete and total disaster and blamed U.S. Middle East intervention for creating Daesh. He said he would put U.S. interests above anything else, warning against the false song of globalism. Let's listen to some excerpts from the speech.
We went from mistakes in Iraq to Egypt to Libya to President Obama's line in the sand in Syria. Each of these actions have helped to throw the region into chaos and gave ISIS the space it needs to grow and prosper. Very bad. It all began with the dangerous idea that we could make Western democracies out of countries that had no experience or interest in becoming a Western democracy. We tore up what institutions they had, and then were surprised at what we unleashed. Civil war, religious fanaticism, thousands of Americans and just killed, lives wasted, horribly wasted. Many trillions of dollars were lost as a result. We're going to be working very closely with our allies in the Muslim world, all of which are at risk from radical Islamic violence, attacks, and everything else. It is a dangerous world, more dangerous now than it has ever been. We should work, thank you. We should work together with any nation in the region that is threatened by the rise of radical Islam. But this has to be a two-way street. They must also be good to us. Remember that. They have to be good to us. No longer one way, it's now two-way. And remember, us and all we are doing. It's time to shake the rust off America's foreign policy. It's time to invite new voices and new visions into the fold, something we have to do. The direction I will outline today will also return us to a timeless principle. My foreign policy will always put the interests of the American people and American security above all else. Has to be first, has to be. That will be the foundation of every single decision that I will make. America, thank you. America First will be the major and overriding theme of my administration.
We're joined now by Peter Emerson. He served as a senior advisor to former U.S. President Jimmy Carter and in every Democratic presidential campaign since 1972. Peter, thanks for joining us. Trump was supposed to deliver some detailed substance behind his foreign policy plans during the speech. Do you think he did that?
No, but what he delivered was very, very important words to the American voter that he's hoping to get not only in the primaries leading up to the nomination, but in the general election. I think this was very much focused on the general election. He kept talking about America first. America first. I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep America safe. And for that alone, this is a very significant speech.
So what he said you think will actually really resonate with the U.S. public, particularly regarding the military budget, rebuilding the military, increasing spending on the military. Is that what they want to hear?
For decades, the default position of the American voter is that Democrats are weak on defense. I don't believe it's true, but in fact, that's in the voter's mind. So he is reinforcing that belief right now with talking about rebuilding the military, which suggests the military is weak. He also used a fascinating word near the end of his speech, the word rust, that I'm going to take the rust off American foreign policy. Well, that's also applicable to America infrastructure, which every American voter knows is rusting and decaying. So from a political standpoint, this was a significant speech.
But just a side note, investing in that kind of infrastructure isn't really a Republican forte. It hasn't been something Trump has harped on. But I want to ask you about what you make of his comfort and tone talking about foreign policy here. It really isn't his forte, foreign policy. So do you think he personally delivered well?
I do. Remember, he's an actor. And so the fact that he came across as calm, deliberate, he obviously didn't stumble. To the average voter and to even me, he came across with a good performance.
Right, he didn't stumble. He was also using a teleprompter, which he's railed against in the past, especially Barack Obama's use of it. But yeah, back to foreign policy. What do you make of how he approached relationship with U.S. allies versus U.S. enemies, particularly reaching out to Russia and China?
I thought in many ways it was very smart. He talked in his speech very specifically about the fact that our rivals, the word he used, do not respect us anymore. That's very important to the American voter. And second, he also talked about our allies being fair with the United States. Fairness is very much on the American voter's mind simply because of the conditions here in America. So from a linguistic standpoint, in the political framework, I think he did a very good job.
Good job. What about his stance on Israel? He really made a point to say that Barack Obama has let Israel, our greatest ally, down.
I think both he and Secretary Clinton are going to be talking more and more about that for obvious reasons as the campaign progresses. But Trump has clearly decided to stake out that he's the best friend of Israel.
Okay, Peter, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights, as always, from Washington.